morning, Cynthia. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. Juxtaposition of your very soul. First off, thank you very much for saying yes to be interviewed today. I am actually in Malaysia right now, Kuala Lumpur, and I appreciate you actually saying yes to be interviewed today. When I read your profile, it is something that um, I wanted to share to my audience because my podcast talks a lot about self worthiness. It's something that I had a struggle with the past few years, and I think people like yourself would actually be beneficial for us to see at different stages of their life, and especially for women, right? So, welcome, Cynthia.
You so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for taking the podcast so late to your time.
Honor is all for me. Okay, so I'm gonna read an introduction about yourself for our listeners, so that they can get to know who is Dr. Cynthia, and then we can dive into your story. So, hi guys, we have Dr. Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Is a business executive, human capital strategist, author, and executive coach. Working from the time she was 14, her leadership journey began early. She was a working mom and breadwinner serving in predominantly male led industries. Throughout most of her 30-year career, she was the youngest and only female on the executive team. Wow. Navigating a progressive career as a chief executive in gaming, hospitality, and healthcare while raising two children and pursuing advanced degrees. Cynthia has experienced the joys and challenges of having it all. Now, her debut book, due out on March 19, 2024, Now Near Next, a practical guide for mid career women to move from professional serendipity to intentional advancement, empowers women to energize self agency, ignite intentionality, and actualize their potential. That is a lot to unpack, Cynthia.
That is a lot to unpack. My goodness, we need to shorten that bio.
I'm so excited though. So, okay, I'd like to take the trip down memory lane for all my guests before we dive into your story. What was it like growing up as Cynthia?
Oh my goodness. Gosh, you know, in some ways a little complicated in that I shared time throughout my life between Southern California in the States, Southern California, and Middle Missouri. And so
Okay.
for listeners around the world, that's like big city Singapore, right? And then middle of nowhere, rural, rural Ireland, or pick a country. And so I kind of never felt like I fit in anywhere. When I was in Southern California, I was that Midwest girl that, wasn't up on all the trends. And when I was in the Midwest, I was that Southern California girl that was far too progressive. Um, but what it taught me, right? But what it taught me was how to relate to a lot of different people. And that, at the end of
Mm. Mm.
we all are, human beings that deserve dignity and respect. And so I learned a lot about just humanity by being in so many different places with different types of diversity. Um, and so I think that was very formative for me from living on a farm, at 12 and a half years old and 6 months prior living near Disneyland.
Okay. So I am an accountant myself before, and I still have a 9 to 5, but podcasting is my passion project at this point. I do have intention to make it my full time soon, hopefully. And that's why I'd like to ask from your perspective, like, could you share us your 35-year career journey? Like, that's a long time, three
Mhm.
decades, three and a half.
Yeah. Amazing. I look so young, right?
Yes, that's why I said I was gonna say you don't look a day older than
Yeah, yeah.
25.
There you go. Oh my goodness.
Seriously, but you look fantastic. Like,
No,
I mean, the resolution right now, it's not even like sharp, sharp, but when it gets uploaded to Riverside, I'm gonna be like, I'm
uh,
always mesmerized by all of my guests. Like, they're so like, prim and proper. I love it.
that's
This is why I
awesome.
love doing what I do.
I love it. Good for you. Good for you. So is the question, what is my takeaway? What have I learned in those 35 years?
Yeah, yes, yes. What are your, I would say, your greatest achievement, and
Mm-hmm.
then also your losses or maybe your failures.
Mm-hmm.
35. What if, and to sum it all up, what's the key takeaway from that?
Yeah. You know, I would say that the things I'm most proud of from my career are the people that I had the opportunity to work with and in a lot of cases mentor. Um, there's nothing more fulfilling than when a young professional comes to you and is looking for uh, a path for their own future. And you can be a small part of helping them develop and reach success. And um, so that has been extremely fulfilling. The other thing is throughout my 35-year career, I still have really close friends and colleagues from every organization that I worked with. And
Wow.
I think that the relationships are so important. As I've launched my own business just in the last 6 months, most of my work and support is coming from people that I worked with 15, 17 years ago. And so the fact that we have made an impact, added value, and people still remember you and are willing to continue to do business with you, I think is something I'm really proud of. Um, I think the thing as I look back and it actually connects to my sum total of my work history is I think women in general lack a lot of intentionality in their career journey.
Mm,
We're
mm,
conditioned and culturally and socially conditioned to put our head down, work hard, and good things will happen. And I even have said that to other leaders in my career. Put your head down, work hard, good things will happen. The reality is that's not really true. The bottom line is while we're looking down and working hard and trying to over index on performance, men are looking up and looking forward and racing past
mm,
us. And so, I in hindsight, I wish two things. I wish that I had been a bit more intentional about my career planning. I was lucky, I was blessed, I worked hard, so good things happened. I could have been more intentional. And I wish that I had had greater boundaries because
mm.
my kids sacrificed a lot. And you don't get those years back, and I don't regret that. I made choices in those moments that I'm at peace with. But I could have had greater boundaries, and that's the thing I want for career women today is to embrace grace around the choices they make, and also to create some boundaries, both professionally and personally, so that they create some space for themselves.
Well, you brought up a very great angle there because you said that intentionality, right? What do you mean by that? Like, you're being intentional about where you're going, and are you saying that women just go because they have men? They want to, I don't want to say compete, but they want to go hand in hand with men, but you can't, you just, we're just not built the same way. So how do you see that? Like, what
Yeah.
what does intentional mean? Yeah.
So I'd reframe it slightly in that what we mean by intentionality, and this is really the through line of the book, Now Near Next, which is
Mm-hmm.
the through line is very simple but very powerful. Identify your next career milestone and start working on it now. the point of that is that men are looking, generally speaking, in our research, we interviewed, we had qualitative interviews with over 30 women. We studied the quantitative research. The women we interviewed represented five countries, five race ethnicities. Um, so it was a global sampling of very highly successful women. We studied success, but what we studied is what do you wish you'd have done differently, and what were the things that led to your success that were sort of accidental. And the difference
Mm-hmm.
is while we're looking down and focus on raising children or dealing with supporting aging parents or what have you, we're nurturing someone,
Juggling,
right? We're
basically.
juggling.
We're
We're
juggling.
juggling. And if you ask women, who are the three people that you invest the most time with that are the greatest priority in your life? They never include themselves. If you ask them to pick five people, they don't include themselves.
That's
And
true.
so,
That's true.
and right. And so socially and culturally, oftentimes what happens is we're looking down and we're saying, when the kids go off to kindergarten or off to school, then I'm going to do my podcast. That is
My,
my passion.
yeah,
When the kids
yeah.
go off to college, when my parents go into some kind of care, there's always this, I put it off, I put it off. Men are driving, they're going forward, and it's not that we can't compete and it's not that we can't keep pace. We absolutely can, but we have to look up and look forward and create time for
Mm,
ourselves. And so the intentionality means what, really what you're doing, which I so respect, which is to say, I want to be a podcaster full time. That's my next. So you've identified your next and you're putting intentionality toward it right now, not down the road, right now. And you're saying, yes, I have a full time job, but I'm carving out time, whatever time I can in this moment to start progressing toward that next goal instead of waiting. And so that really is the through line of the book. And what we really talk about is how do you do that? How do you create boundaries? How do you create that space? What does that look like? How do you figure out what your next is? And then how do you wrap yourselves with an infrastructure of support to help you get there? Um, and I think it's a movement. We want women around the world to start thinking about themselves, even if it's 7 minutes a day.
yeah. Wow. I hearing you say that, it's like women are really superhero. I mean, the fact that we we have our own job, I mean, we bring something, we, we have our own pay, and at the same time, we're juggling kids, parents, and the partner.
Right.
Well, I don't want to get called out or get canceled here by my listeners, but men, they just, they have, I mean, not all, but primarily their focus is just forward. When's my next promotion? When's my next business deal? Like, how big is it going to be and stuff. So
Right.
it's, yeah, it's,
And it's not a indictment of men. Even in our book and our research, there's nothing in the book or the research that is an indictment of men not doing enough or
mm,
that is not the angle. The angle is
yeah.
we've been conditioned culturally and
Mm,
socially, number one. And number two, we're wired that way. We want to be able to do the primary caregiving for the most part. Um,
yeah.
so we take it on, right?
We
But
made the
and in some
choice.
ways we have no
Yeah,
one else to
choice.
blame, right? But it's I mean the data is clear that women take on the lion's share of the caregiving at home, even while working outside the home. 61% of people are taking care of aging parents, and the majority of those are working women. So that is a reality. And so our belief is that being the reality, we need to give women permission to be unapologetic and guilt free about investing in themselves. Putting themselves in the priority list doesn't have to be the sole priority, but where are you in the priority list and how are you making sure that you're intentional about where you're going.
So could you? Oh, I'm so interested. Could you like share like a scenario, like like a woman that is, I don't know, of 30 years of age with one kid and a partner, like how would you say you have a friend or somebody that comes up to you? I'll say I have a friend, and I'd say, oh, maybe you should talk to Dr. Cynthia. She's big on this. And how would you help her, like in that
Right.
in that yeah.
That's one of the favorite things that I get to do is I work as an executive coach, predominantly with C-suite executives at this point, um, which come in all ages, frankly. But it starts with understanding what are your hopes and dreams. When you ask
Mm.
a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? They can immediately rattle off, right? A fireman, a teacher, a nurse, a veterinarian, right?
Astronaut, policewoman.
Astronaut, superhero, right? They don't,
Those were my those were
yeah,
my things when I was a kid.
yeah, there you go. I mean, and they don't hesitate. Yet at some point in our life, that voice begins to get muted. We start to really narrow, and then we stop even expressing. We just sort of start going through the grind. And so I really start with individuals by talking about what do you love to do? What brings you intrinsic satisfaction? What are you naturally good at? What do you find that you're better at than a lot of people that just comes very easily? We really start to explore those natural gifts and talents. And then we look at the reality of their life. Where are they extended? If they're working and they have a significant other and they have a child, how does that time lay out? And what's realistic? What's reasonable to say? Could you get up 7 minutes earlier in the morning so you had 7 minutes to listen to a podcast or read a chapter or meditate or whatever it is that you need to do to invest in you? Could you take 7 minutes after the children go to bed? Um, so for me, it's about meeting that individual where they are, but getting them focused on it's okay to be a priority, and that is not selfish. It's not selfish and selfless. There's
Mm.
self-actualization that lies in the middle.
Mm.
That ability to um, fulfill your greatest potential. And that's a gift to
Yeah.
that child. That's a gift to that significant other or spouse, right? Is when you're your best self, you're better
Yeah.
for everyone around you. But we forget that. We forget the whole put your mask on first, on the airplane because we're
Yeah.
trying to do for everyone else.
So it's like standing in your own power or
Hmm.
standing authentically.
Hmm.
Yeah, often we forget about that because for kids, like okay, like exactly what you said, like um they okay, I have, so say for example, a mother, she has a small kid, but she's also working, but she's always loved writing, but she's never gotten the time to actually sit down and write. By the time she gets home, she would have to tend to the kids. And then by the time, I don't know, maybe to the partner. And then by the time 10 o'clock, she's super tired. And, the cycle continues. So
Right. Right. And
beautiful.
in that case,
Mm.
it's what can you delegate? What can
Mm.
you empower others in your circle to help you with? And don't give up the
Right.
things you love, right? If you love giving your children a bath, don't give that up.
Yeah.
But if
Mm.
that's something that you could enlist your partner in giving the child a bath so that for 20 minutes you can use that time on your own. Is it in that situation? It may not be realistic, but could you get up 30 minutes earlier and just go sit in quiet time for writing? That's your time privately, quietly that you can begin. And maybe it's only 30 minutes a day, maybe it's only 30 minutes 3 days a week. But how do you carve that out to say, I'm going to be unapologetic and guilt-free about this time
Yeah,
that is mine
exactly.
to invest in me.
Yeah, I think it's also about mindset. Like
Mhm.
exactly, you're saying, hitting the right point there. Guilt free. I mean, it's easier said than done,
Yes,
but it's difficult for women to actually. I don't even want to say women. Like just an individual to just sit down and be at peace. Like, okay,
right.
this is my time, and I deserve this.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, it is. It is difficult. And that's where we spend the early part of our work is just getting, we call it setting the table. It's difficult to pick your next and start working on it if you haven't cleared space to
Mm.
begin working on it, right? Otherwise, it's just frustrating. It's like, oh, someday I want to do a podcast. That'd be really cool, but that'll be someday because I don't have time for it. Well, that's not making progress. But saying I want to do that, and even if it's, you know what, I'm going to start. I'd love to be doing a podcast someday. I'm going to start by learning about the best ways to do that, and so I'm going to start reading about the best ways to host a podcast. I'm going to start listening to podcasts and learning from people that I admire. I'm going to start doing something today,
Yeah,
not
something today. Yeah,
today, right?
thank you, Cynthia. Okay, so we're gonna go back to a part in your career where you said that the week that you went to your publisher, your CAO position was eliminated. Like, I'm actually intrigued. What actually happened? Was this the pivotal moment that catapulted you to launching your own business?
Yes. So yes, yeah. So here's what happened. I started. I occasionally throughout my career would begin to feel restless. Not the fault of my employer. I'm a learner. I get bored easily, if I feel
Same.
like I've mastered something, whether other people think I've mastered it or not, if I think I'm ready to move to whatever the next challenging goal is. And so I decided about a year ago, September, so September of 22, I decided that I was going to write a book. And I had been thinking about writing this book for over 20 years. Has evolved, but it's always been about professional women, always. And so I reached out to a friend and person I knew through business. And I said, would you want to write this book with me? Let's do it. And my intention was, and we made the decision and we started writing. I started writing in January of 23, and we were ready to go to our editor in June of 23. And so my whole idea, and the book really is written through my lens of, this is going to be my next 3 to 5 years from now. So in 27, 28, right? My next was going to be, I want to be an executive coach, public speaking. I want to be an author. I had these hopes and dreams of what I wanted to do in my own consulting practice. And so I'm going to start right now
Mhm.
journeying that will be 3 to 5 years from now when I have my encore career rather than retire. We're big believers in encore. So that,
Anchor. Okay, that's a new term. I like that.
yeah, yeah,
Anchor. Yeah, don't. Yeah, let's ditch that word. Anchor. Yeah, I love that. Anchor.
encore
Okay.
prepared. That's right. It was going to
Yeah.
be my encore. So we were writing the book, and I in through the book, as we're teaching folks to identify a next and start working toward it, I unpack my journey toward my next of this consulting practice and so on, which is in my plan to be 3 to 5 years from now. And then in so 8 chapters really journey through that. And then chapter 9 is really about resilience. It's about, life is messy. It doesn't always go the way we plan. And so what do you do to really prepare yourself for the bumps in the road? But it was a bit theoretical. Reality was I had not lost a job. I had not had the significant disruption. I had been pretty fortunate throughout my career. So it was written in a bit of a theoretical. If this happens, here are some things to do. And on June 24th of 2023, I went into the office and my position was eliminated. We had gone through a C.
No,
We had
they
gone,
didn't even inform you.
and I sensed I would be not truthful if I didn't tell you that there were warning signs. We had a new CEO. He was building a team around him. Every CEO deserves to have the people around them that bring them energy and so forth. And it's very common, right?
True.
Coaches
Yeah.
on major sports teams make changes all the time. I mean, it happens. So it wasn't completely out of the realm of possibility, but the timing
Right.
was not what I expected.
Yeah.
So I left that day. And I had two options in my mind. I'm a single woman. I'm a sole provider. And so I left with two options. It was I have to either quickly find a executive level position in corporate America, or I need to accelerate my next.
My
That was
your
really
next, which
headfirst
is
for
your business. Yeah.
And the thought of going back into corporate was exhausting. I thought, I don't
Yeah. What? Oh
I have
gosh. I
grandchildren.
totally get it.
I don't want to relocate. I don't want to start that all over again at 56 years old. Um, it just did not sound appealing, but it was terrifying, right? To think about launching this business. But here's where my conviction came. I was able to go back through those first 8 chapters and drink my own champagne, if you will, eat my own cooking.
Oh
I
wow.
followed our methodology and I had a roadmap. And had I not been intentional
Yeah.
about planning for my next and starting for it right now, I've been way behind. But instead, I already had my coaching certification. My book was ready to go
Hmm.
to the publisher. I was really well equipped, still scary,
Yeah.
but well equipped
Yeah.
to launch into my next. And it was that moment that I thought, you know what? Women need women need this information, this understanding that because sometimes life happens, and if you don't have any
Hmm.
plan on where you're headed, it's like being lost without a GPS, right? You're just
Yeah.
wandering around aimlessly trying to figure out where you're going. And I had a roadmap.
I resonated with that so much because um, during COVID, COVID, that's where it all fell apart. I mean, I had my divorce in 2019, so that led me to whew, a spiritual awakening journey. I had to heal, and I threw myself to working, and that was not the way. So I was so out of balance, and I think it was the universe trying to tell me like, I know you want to grind, but you need to face this. This is something that there's something that you need to learn here. So I was stationed in I was in Big Four, one of the Big Four, and I was stationed in projects, like short term projects, and then it was crappy. Like the first 2 years was good, but the third and the fourth was like I was like it's like we was just trying to say just leave already, leave, but I didn't want to leave.
Right.
So um so I got to a point where I was removed from a project, and I was like I had imposter syndrome. My self esteem was like zero. I was worth nothing. Like I even think that somebody would hire me to that point. Like I was so it was terrible, Cynthia. And to get to where I am right now, to be able to be talking to you, it's taken a lot. So I think what I learned is that intention is very, very important, and leaning onto your heart. And that means what are you naturally good at? And just pour your heart into it, and the grace of God, you will somehow. I mean, provided you put in the effort, because it's two into your co-creating.
That's
So
right.
I that's why I when
Thank
I
you for
it's like I
sharing
can
that.
resonate so much.
Yeah, Nicolette, thank you for sharing that because that is a perfect example of so many things. First of all, sometimes the universe, says, well, if you're not going to make the move that clearly needs to happen, we're going to make it for you. Right?
Yeah,
And,
because
and,
I'm
and
scared. Like that's always I've always known that. Like
yes,
working. Like I don't want to let go. It's big four and yada da da da. So
yes, right.
prestige and whatnot. Yeah.
But at some point when you go, this isn't a good fit for me, this is not, for whatever reason, this is not a good fit for me. And being comfortable with assessing that, but then what am I going to do about it? Because that's the power, right? That's where our
Mm.
agency comes from, is when we say, for whatever reason, this company, this culture, this position, this leader, whatever it is, doesn't doesn't fit. It doesn't fit either. It's not exercising all my gifts and talents,
Align.
right? It's not aligned,
Yeah.
or it's not aligned with my,
Mm.
values and purpose, whatever it might be. So then it's like, okay, well, what would I like to be doing?
Mm.
What's my ideal timing to get to this new thing? And what steps can I take now to journey toward that?
Mm.
It doesn't have to happen overnight. It could be a 9 month plan. It could be a 5 year plan. The beauty is you
Yeah.
decide
Exactly.
the
Yeah,
timeline.
we decide because yeah, exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Women need to hear this. Yeah. Next question. What do you think? What traps do women often fall into due to societal or social norms?
Yeah, important question. I think, and this isn't new, but the more we've studied this this concept or this phenomenon, the more and powerful it has become to me in terms of helping women. And that is, women over index on performance and men over index on potential. And so, there's
Oh, yeah.
right. So we know there's studies out there we've talked about that if there's a job opening, women will look at those 10 criteria. And if they don't tick every box or nine of the 10 boxes, they say, nope, not for
I'm
me.
not gonna apply. Yeah.
Men
I'm not
go,
good enough for this.
right,
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, I'm not ready. Because again, we over index on performance. We want to be excellent at something before we're going to go for the next thing. Um, Men in society over index in terms of, for men, on potential. They have 3 to 5 of those things, and they're like, fake it till you make it. I got this.
Yeah, I
Right?
can do this. Like this is in my blood, in my DNA. Let's
Right.
go.
Right. And corporate cultures reinforce that. Corporate cultures will see, and again, this is not a indictment or a judgment. It's a reality, and it's based in research and fact, is that they will see men and say, yeah, yes, perhaps he doesn't have quite the seasoning, or, hasn't done it as long, but he'll figure it out. He's driven, he'll make it. Women, it's, well, she doesn't have the experience yet, when she hasn't mastered that yet. So we do it to ourselves, but it's conditioning, because that's how society and corporate cultures often reinforce those social norms. And so it's getting women to really address that imposter syndrome, and to put themselves out
Mm,
there, and to take
yeah.
chances and take risks. Yes, maybe I don't tick 10 of 10 boxes. Maybe I tick 5 or 6 out of the 10 boxes. But what can I do to ready myself? How can I wrap infrastructure or support around myself to increase my chances of being successful in that, and take that risk? Easier said than done, which is why a lot of high performing women work with coaches, because they've got somebody in their corner that's, helping push them along. But to me,
Yay,
that's what,
cheering them on. You can do.
cheering them on. Absolutely. We
Yeah.
have a cheerleader in our corner.
Yes. I
100%.
mean, another facet to that, Cynthia, is the women. I don't. Okay, women tend to think more about what people's perception of them if they were to go for
Yeah.
a C-suite position. Say, oh, what if I don't? What would this person think of me that I again? It's like again imposter syndrome as well, and I think worrying about what how you will look like. Let's say again, we always tend to assume the negative, the worst. What if we fall flat on our face once we do get the job? Like, oh my god, where am I gonna put my? What am I gonna, how am I gonna face them? Right? It's I think it's getting past that, and I mean, I guess being very sure of yourself that it's okay. Number one, taking that risk, that courage. Number two, even if we don't, you're still, but always in hindsight, you having that mindset that adopting what men do best, which is I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but yeah, that's it. Like just turning the positive, focusing on the because there's always this paradox of what happens if it's the worst, or what happens if everything falls into place exactly like you dreamed of, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would take it even a step further. I think it's not only is it the fear of failure, um,
Mm.
but it's also this issue of self-advocating versus
Mm.
self-promoting. So
Mm.
women struggle, and by the way, we're hardest on each other. We're very, very hard on each other. Right? I mean, I did not tell people that I was writing a book for a good while because my feeling was they're going to think, who's Cynthia? What she thinks she's an author now? I mean, like, what?
No, that's the thing. I had the same
That's what I
exact mindset. Like, who's Nicola? Like, nobody in my clique like started podcast, and when I started, I had that, but I said, you know what? I'm just gonna be very intentional.
am.
I'm gonna have my niche listener. If there's 7 billion, even if it's 0.01%, I
Right.
still have some numbers there
That's
to
right.
listen to me. It's fine.
That's right. And you'll
Sorry,
build
sorry
it
to cut
over
you off.
time. But it's okay to self-advocate. It's okay to put in the universe what we want and what we desire and what we aspire to be. That's that's not self-promoting. That's self-actualizing. And no
Yeah.
one thinks it's a problem if a man says, my desire is to be CEO of the company, or my
Yeah.
desire is for this next thing. We go, great, good, yay, you, right?
Yeah.
But if a woman
Yeah.
says, my
I'm sure
desire
you'll
is,
get it. Yeah, it's
yeah,
in
it's
the
like,
bag.
oh, she thinks
Yeah.
she's all that, right? I mean, we're just not very nice sometimes. Women
Yeah.
really, we're so passionate about women promoting and supporting other women. At the end of the day, if
Me
if
too.
I do anything in this next chapter, I just want to empower women and for women to support other women, just be in each other's corner. We are so powerful together. And
Oh,
instead of fighting and, backbiting around, that one opportunity that exists, it's, be proud of each other, but lift each other up, celebrate each other's wins. I mean, there's so much beauty in that. Um, so hopefully this is a road to that, and we start to get women to really celebrate one another. I celebrate you for like
okay.
launching your podcast. I think it's amazing. Takes a lot of courage.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. It does. It takes so much courage to put yourself out there. And it's it's very public. It's writing a book for me was to courage because first of all it was through my voice. Um, there's a lot of vulnerability in that. And it's a creative
Mm,
process. What you're doing is
yeah.
a creative process. It's really putting yourself out there in the universe. And I think that just takes a tremendous amount of courage and there's risk involved. And, look what you've overcome from where you were feeling in 2019, was it? And where you are today, pursuing your next while working your full-time job and making steps and putting momentum toward that. I mean, you're really living out our methodology. So I really, celebrate that.
Thank you, Cynthia. You made my day.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Well, you deserve it.
Okay.
You deserve to hear.
You know, just but I had I went to a dinner with few friends that I haven't actually met, I think, since 2017. So they were in my they are still in my Instagram circle, and I've been posting clips on my podcast regarding my podcast, and they were like, at first, there were some people that that are like, oh, I only told my intention to a very very close knit friend, and they were like, yes, Nick, you should do it, you should. So, and I knew back of my head there are people who are, not so, maybe they're like I said, like, who does she think she is? She's like, is she what? She's a journalist now, but it's okay. They can, they can sit in that corner like that. But then, what made my day during when I had that dinner was like a friend of mine. She was like, Nick, you going and talking to people, good for you. Like, I could never do that. And I've started this sixth episode was solo, and then seven onwards, I started talking to people online, and then I have plans. In fact, next week I'm gonna start face to face. So I'm looking for a studio that I can rent, like a small thing. Like I want to invite my friends to, because when we get together, some of my friends are really, really good friends. We can debate and talk about relationship, about anything, to be honest. So I want, I want to, I want to do that. And then, so so it's like full circle. It's like, oh, I'm, I'm very, very grateful that I forced, not really forced, but I had to sit with myself and really ask, what is it that I want to do? Do I want to, continue to be in the corporate? Not that I don't, I like my current job now, but it's like I want to have that fulfillment.
Yeah.
So
And you should.
yeah,
And you're pursuing it. And there's a wonderful quote by Martin Luther King Jr. that says, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk.
mm,
If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you
crawl.
do something. And so, this notion of do something. And regardless of if it's a few minutes or 30 minutes or twice a week, is identify what is that. And the next doesn't have to be outside of your current organization either. I think it's important. I think it's important for your listeners. They may love the company they work with. I hope they do. A lot of
Yeah.
people are working for fantastic, brands and love their job. But what's next? And it could, and in
Mm.
that organization. So if you're a manager, director, vice president, whatever, wherever you are in the organization, what is next? And next doesn't have to be the proverbial corporate ladder where the next is only up, right? I have to go
Up.
from
Yeah.
manager to director to vice president and so on. We like to think of it as a lattice. So maybe it's widening my seat. Maybe it's that I want to take on more valuable projects that challenge me. Maybe it's a lateral move into something that broadens my perspective and introduces me to a new part of the organization and introduces new skill sets. The point is to stay relevant and to continue learning and have that growth mindset. And so you don't have to be in a place of dysfunction or restlessness or stuck to be thinking about your next. In fact, good for you if you have the benefit of being in a wonderful situation where you're living the dream. All the more reason to think, okay, this is amazing. What's next? What's the next amazing thing? And again, it doesn't necessarily meaning leaving a job and starting your own business. It doesn't necessarily mean changing professions altogether. It could just mean the next opportunity, the next big project, the next certification or degree, the next, um, project opportunity, but whatever it is to expand, grow, and remain relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, yep. That's the whole emphasis there.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Cynthia, I have one question regarding, I'm going to pivot to a self worth question that relates to my podcast, the essence of my podcast. So, do you believe in seeking external help, such as therapy or counseling? Can these ways be beneficial for addressing self worth issues? First thing, do you have what is your definition of self worth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'll answer it sort of in reverse. Absolutely, 100% think that seeking outside professional guidance and help is critical. And depending on what it is you seek, right? That could range from an executive coach, which is helping you from a how you show up professionally. That could be a clinical therapist if it's addressing, deep-seated issues and formative experiences, et cetera, that really you need to unpack to reach a point of clarity and self-worth, to your point. And there's a lot of things in between, but I am a huge advocate. I am passionate about mental wellness. My PhD, my dissertation was about patients who have mental illness and present in emergency departments, and the treatment, both the impact on the nursing and clinical profession, and the impact on the patient because of the misunderstanding and the stigma related to mental illness. So um, very, very passionate about people seeking the right therapy, counseling, support, etc. I think self-worth is that ability to really be comfortable in your own skin and love yourself. Um, we all have things and baggage, and life is messy. I was divorced after a 20-year marriage, and raised my children, pretty well solo, and have had things in my life that haven't always been easy. But at the end of the day, if you can just love yourself and be comfortable in your own skin, I think that is where it all starts, that you are physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally aligned. And if those things are out of sync, seeking help with somebody that you trust, that you have a great connection with, I think is really an important path to wellness.
Thank you. What is your heart's greatest wish?
My heart's greatest wish, as it relates to this movement that my business partner Kimberly and I are on, I would say that if we can touch a handful of women around the world, um, and inspire them to make themselves a priority and invest in themselves and work toward fulfilling their dreams, that would be fantastic, because I believe that that will leave a better world for my daughter and my granddaughters. I want my granddaughters to be looking up and looking forward. I want them not to have small dreams. I want them to dream big and continue, that we talked earlier about what do you want to be when you grow up, and to continue to have big dreams and to put those into the universe, and embarrassed about that. And while they're still loving and supporting and being wonderful nurturers to others, that they nurture themselves, and that becomes supported both in the business world and in the social and cultural norms that we live within. If I can make that difference, even in a small way, this will be worth it.
It is worth it.
Yeah.
You're doing a fantastic job, Cynthia.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. May I mention to your audience where they can pick up a pre-sale copy of the book?
Please do.
Uh,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So our book, Now Near Next, moving from mid-career women, moving from professional serendipity to intentional advancement, is now available on Amazon for pre-sale, but it's also available with a whole bunch of a bundle of free training and free resources from us on our website at www.zealoftheheel.com, and that's ZEAL of the HEEL, like the shoe.com.
The shoe.
So for
The
that's right, right.
moment after that. Yeah. The
So
rest.
for the purchase of the
Red
book,
bottom.
$28 retail purchase of the book, they also get a master class, a webinar, and a downloads for free that will help guide them through their journey to their next. Or again, it's also available on Amazon, but we would love it if your readers would pick up a copy and provide us feedback on how it's hopefully impacted them in a positive way and moved them forward in their journey.
I'll be sure to include that in the caption.
Thank
And
you.
I will redirect them to your website.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Right. Okay, two more questions. So, what keeps you up at night? Or do you sleep well?
My dog keeps me up at night usually.
Your dog. Okay.
No,
Okay. Just
I
the
just,
dog.
yeah, I'm teasing. No, what keeps me up at night? That's evolved a lot. So when I was in my corporate world for so many years, what kept me up at night was how do we continue to delight every day the women and men that come to work in the organization and put their whole heart into their jobs. I was, very committed to coworker engagement, and now I do that with companies as a consultant. I help them think about those things and move in that direction. I would say now what keeps me up at night is, I'm a new entrepreneur. And so building a business as an entrepreneur for the very first time, um, it's 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 wondering what I don't know. It's it's
Mm,
it's I'm learning as I go. Um,
yeah.
I feel like we're directionally doing the right things. We're surrounding ourselves with really smart, capable people that are supporting us on our journey. But I don't know what I don't know. And so this is really new territory. I've never been self-employed. I've always had a big brand around me, and it's exciting. I love being my own boss. That's kind of a cool new thing. Um, I certainly don't work any less hours, so it's not like I'm getting any
If
more
not more,
more
at
hours.
least not. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like, wait, I
Yeah.
thought this was supposed to be like I can give myself time off, but
Yeah.
it's like the opposite right now. So yeah, I think it's just it's trying to find my way in this new space and really living into our work around avoiding imposter syndrome for myself. And really continuing to give myself positive self-talk, um, and that I can do this because it's a whole new territory.
Thank you for being so candid
Thank you for
and for
being
being
so
so open.
warm and welcoming. It was so lovely to meet you, and thank you for sharing your story too. I appreciate the give and take because it really is such a gift to be able to have these opportunities to meet people around the world and know that, you know what, we're all sort of struggling with similar things. And congratulations on your podcast and following your dream. I will continue to watch you and be cheering for you for the sidelines. So I'm a fan. I just wish you all the best.
Thank you, Cynthia. one more before I let you go.
Okay.
If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would it be?
It would be women who've made history take risks.
Preach.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got to take risks.
I felt
I love it.
I
Yeah.
integrated that into myself.
That's right.
It's just yeah, it's just waiting for. I think movements like this. It's we're change is coming.
That's
I
right.
can feel that. Yeah, that's right.
It's slow. It's
Thank you.
slow. But you know what?
It's slow, but we're getting there.
Getting there.
Yeah,
Everyone
there's
sees.
something.
That's right. It's
Yes,
momentum.
yes. Well, thank you so much, Cynthia. I think we're right on time. I don't want to take
Thank you. It was
more of the time. Likewise, Cynthia. So let's keep in touch. I followed you on Instagram. Once this episode airs, I will be snipping some clips and will be tagging you. So you can choose to accept the tag and then maybe share it to your community.
I absolutely will. I absolutely will. Have a blessed evening. I know it's late your time. Thank you for making this work with the time change. And yes, let's do stay in touch. I'll continue to follow you as well.
Thank you very much. You have a great day too.
Thank you. Bye, Nicholas.
Bye, Cynthia.